Mikel Arteta gets a 3-year extension at Arsenal, and there's some debate over whether this is a good thing for Arsenal or not. It's actually a little hard to believe we have to have this discussion, but we're going to have it anyway. Let's break it down here, next on Pints and Punditry at the Pitchside Pub. So Mikel Arteta is a good manager. I'm not really going to debate that. That's not the discussion here. If your viewpoint is that he's terrible, or he sucks as a manager, or that he's awful, or anything that extreme, you're really not watching with clear eyes. You are probably an unabashed Arsenal supporter who thinks that nothing other than a trophy is going to be acceptable. And if that's your stance, then boy, it's going to be a long road ahead for you, and I'm sorry, okay? Mikel Arteta is a good manager. Is he the best manager? Well, probably not. Is he the best manager Arsenal could get? Well, it depends on who's available. There are a lot of other factors beyond just, is Mikel Arteta a good manager? But I want to get that out of the way first. Yes, he is a good manager, and you could do a lot worse. And that's sort of the premise I'm going to run with here. But before we get too far into it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me down below so you can follow the channel. Get down in that comment section. Arsenal fans, are you happy with this contract? Should it have been a different kind of contract? No contract at all? Let him go. Get down in that comment section. Let me know what you think. You can also leave some comments on Twitter at PitchsidePub, and check out the website, pitchsidepub.com. So there's a couple key details here. Arteta was in the last year of his contract, and that in and of itself is a fear because you have the lame duck manager situation. Now, there wasn't a lot of animosity or controversy about this. Even entering the season, Arteta said, hey, I don't think this is going to be a big deal. We're working on it. We're going to get it done. So it was probably inevitable that he did get some kind of extension, but it is very noteworthy what kind of extension he received. He got a 3-year extension, which tells you this was not just to avoid lame duck status. I could understand if the Kroenkes said, well, you know what, we don't want him operating as a lame duck this season because oftentimes the manager loses the locker room. He loses the dressing room. He loses the respect of the players who, if they don't like him, may just say, you know what, I know you might be out of here after this season, so I'm just going to wait you out. Having a manager in the last year of his contract is a problem. We saw this with Erik ten Hag, who, when Manchester United decided to keep him around, gave him an extension. And that was the right thing to do. If you were going to keep him around, you couldn't do it when he's on the rocks, right? On thin ice in the last year of his contract. He would have absolutely no say in that locker room. So they gave him an extension, but it was only 1 year. And had this been a 1-year extension, I would have said, you know what, Arteta might be on thin ice if he doesn't win the league or make a deep Champions League run or something like that. But no, this is a legitimate bona fide extension and vote of confidence from the Kroenke ownership group that Mikel Arteta is their guy and that they have faith in him. And you know, I think that's okay because, for the most part, I think they could do a lot worse. As I said in the intro, Mikel Arteta is a good manager. We also have to remember, he is a young, inexperienced manager. Now, he is in his, 5th season at Arsenal now, so that inexperienced part is sort of wearing thin, but before he got to Arsenal, he had never been a head guy. He'd been an assistant under Pep, but he wasn't that far removed from his coaching career. And we have seen a lot of guys transition from player to coach very quickly and have it gone a lot worse than it's gone for Mikel Arteta and Arsenal. Just look at Frank Lampard as an example, and Wayne Rooney, and a number of other legends from 10 to 15 years ago. It's not going great for a lot of them. So you could do a lot worse. Also, look at what is available. If you did not want this extension from Mikel Arteta and you wanted to either get rid of him, which I don't hear a lot of, or let the contract expire and move on, who exactly would you like to replace him with? Jurgen Klopp, still retired, doesn't seem to have any interest, and probably wouldn't come back to a Premier League club anyway. Xabi Alonso, still with Bayer Leverkusen for now, might make a jump somewhere at some point, but Liverpool couldn't get him, so what makes you think you could get him, Arsenal? Is Mauricio Pochettino. He's coaching the American team now, so he's off the board. Who is it that's available that you think would be better than Mikel Arteta? Not just a good manager, but better than what you have, and that's the key here. You can pick on some of Arteta's decisions and strategies over the years. No manager is perfect, and he's definitely not one of them. But I think overall it's been a lot more good than bad, and we have to look back at what he inherited here, which was sort of a mess for Arsenal. And it's great that he survived some early struggles and some 8th place finishes to now be on the run that they are on. And back-to-back 2nd place finishes with the highest points total ever in Arsenal's Premier League history at 89 points last season is really, really good. And we do have to give a little bit of credit for the fact that that Mikel Arteta is trying to coach in the Pep Guardiola heyday in the Premier League, and no one else has really gotten a chance. And if we are firing every manager who does not unseat Manchester City, well, there's going to be a lot of unemployed managers. Look no further than Jurgen Klopp. He spent 10 years at Liverpool. He won 1 title. He was deserving of probably 3 or 4 in terms of the quality of that team and the way he managed it, but he ran into a juggernaut, and he lost a couple of years by 1 point, managed to get 1 Premier League title, did win a Champions League, and that's something Arteta is going to need to at least get close to doing soon. But, in 10 years, he won 1 Premier League title, and he retired a legend. He's going to have a statue at Anfield, and rightly so. And no one could argue that Jurgen Klopp was not an amazing manager. Now, that does not make Mikel Arteta Jurgen Klopp, but it certainly means he's on that path and has to continue to develop, but could be that kind of manager and is closer to that kind of manager than anybody else you could hope to find on the open market. Back-to-back 2nd place finishes and giving Manchester City a run for their money is really admirable. Now, the way it has gone about is where the questions are for Arteta, and the fact that they had leads in back-to-back seasons and gave them up is a problem. And you've got the mantra of Arsenal, constantly crapping the bed and giving up leads, and I don't know that that's fair. I think Manchester City was the better squad in both of those seasons, so it had a sort of inevitability to it. One of the knocks on Arteta has been his reluctance to rotate his squad. Now, a few years ago, I gave him the benefit of the doubt on this because his squad was not all that deep, and so he really did feel the need to play that starting 11 every single game and run them out there, and it took its toll on them, but I understood the thought process. Now he has more depth. They have spent and spent and spent, and he does have the depth that is required to compete on 3 and 4 fronts, and he can make a deep run in the Champions League and an FA Cup run and still rotate a strong squad in Premier League games, particularly when they're playing the bottom of the table, and he is going to need to show more of a propensity for doing that. So again, there are things that Arteta can definitely do better, and I would like to see certain aspects of that from him as his development as a manager. But these are really small potatoes. This is nitpicking here. I mean, he's a damn good manager. My one knock on Arteta, and I was really disappointed to see this just as an outside observer, it was the way he approached last year's game against Manchester City, and I did an entire video on this. And I was really disappointed in Mikel Arteta because he played for a draw. They had to. We all knew that in order for Arsenal to beat Manchester City in the season, to win the Premier League, they were going to have to beat Manchester City head-to-head. And yes, that is a daunting task, and yes, that is hard to do, but so is winning the whole damn league. And rather than go attempt to do that, he sat back and played for a draw and ultimately got it, but it opened the door wide for Manchester City, and Arteta sat back and hoped some other club was going to do his dirty work and beat Manchester City, and that's why they deserved to lose last year, because he didn't try to go out and win it. He tried to play it safe, tried to play it smart. I understand the strategy on paper, but you want to knock off the king, you got to take him on yourself, and he chose not to do it. That was a weak point for me, from Mikel Arteta, and if you want to argue that was what lost your confidence in Arteta as a coach, if you're an Arsenal fan, get in those comments, let me know what you think. Most Arsenal fans have said I'm off base for that, but I watched that game, I've rewatched that game. They played scared, they played soft, they played careful, and that's not how you win the Premier League, especially when you have a chance to go beat the team that you need to unseat. And so, if you tell me that is why you don't want Arteta as your manager anymore, because he lost you on that day with that strategy, I'll actually buy that. I'm okay with that. I think punishing him to the point where you don't want him as your manager anymore is a little extreme for that, but I'd understand that because I did lose some respect for Arteta, the manager, that day. But hey, managers make mistakes, and he is a young, inexperienced manager going up against his his former mentor and the guy he was an assistant for, and he chose to play it safe and scared. And while that was definitely a mistake, I at least understand it. So I don't think punishing him for that forever is really the way to go. I think Arsenal could do a lot worse. I'll bet he doesn't make that mistake again. Arteta is an incredibly smart guy and an incredibly meticulous, detailed guy. I like that in a manager. He preps his team, he gets them to play hard, and overall the results have been everything Arsenal could have hoped for, minus the trophies. And if we are only evaluating our managers on trophies, you're going to have a lot of disappointed fans and a lot of unemployed managers. And that's where we get that ridiculous carousel. If you've watched this channel, if you subscribe to this channel, you know how I feel about longevity, particularly with managers, and what that instills in a club as a program from the top down. And it's one of the things that made Klopp so great, their ability to integrate young players because they came up in Klopp's system because it trickled down to all the youth teams. Arteta going on year 5, 6, 7, 8 through this contract of being in one place has a trickle-down effect that strengthens the entire club. So if you're going to get rid of somebody like Arteta or even just let him go, you'd better have a damn good replacement, because that consistency is so valuable, and it does outweigh a few of his other flaws as a manager, all of which, by the way, are things he can fix. So I think this is great for Arsenal. I think this is a no-brainer. I'm only making this video because I do see a lot of people making fun of the lack of trophies and going, oh, a bunch more years of no trophies, and I don't think that's fair. It's an accurate description of what has happened, but only in a vacuum, only in a bubble. He has gotten Arsenal to the point where they are the 1B to Manchester City's 1A, and that is a hell of a place to be. And now they're going on a third year in a row of contending, and that's really all you can hope for. There are so many things that can go wrong during a Premier League season, during any season. It's such a long season that all you can hope for is to have a manager who puts you in contention year in and year out. And guess what, Arsenal? You've got that. You've got that. And the Kroenkes, for all of their many, many flaws, were smart to hold on to this guy and not be glory chasers who only grade their managers on trophies. So I think they got this right, but I'd love to get your thoughts. Get down in that comment section. Let me know what you think about this. Arsenal fans, neutrals, anybody, get in that comment section. Let me know your thoughts. You can also leave comments on Twitter at PitchsidePub. While you're at it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me down below so you can follow the channel, and check out the website, pitchsidepub.com. Thanks as always for joining us here on Pints and Punditry at the Pitchside Pub.